Yo guys, what's up and welcome back to another special video. And this is a special video because as you guys see by the title, I'm going to be talking about my experience, getting arrested and ultimately doing a little bit of time in what's called youth corrections, which is basically jail for kids. I've decided to shoot this video because I've seen some other people talking about their experiences. Thankfully for my case, I'm very grateful and thankful that I never had to serve a long sentence. I had a pretty good lawyer, and also because I was a juvenile, I probably did less than 30 days. So it wasn't that long, but I was arrested a few times. So, I would do like little stretches. They would let me out. The judge would let me out, and then I would, get caught doing something else. And so that's what like my teenage years was like. And obviously it got in the way of school, having to go to like 4 different high schools because of my situation where I just, they said, no, you can't come to this school. So, but let's get right into the video, guys. Ultimately, I wanted to share my experiences and also to, help some other people, especially young people out there who might be going through a similar struggle because, as a young teenager, you're just going through this phase of finding yourself. And sometimes, you get with the wrong crowd and, you have a wrong perception of what's right and what's wrong. So you end up making some mistakes. But so the story that I'm going to be talking about is basically how I ended up in custody and actually got into a fight while I was in custody. It wasn't actually at the jail, it was actually at the courthouse cell blocks. So for those of you that don't know, when you get arrested, the police will charge you. So when you get charges, typically you will go for bail. So if you don't really have a previous criminal record, you're most likely going to bond out. So they'll say, okay, just sign this, and then you have to come back and deal with this court case. So essentially you're going to fight your case, but you're going to be a free person on the outside, going to school, going to work. But every month you have to come back to court usually. And the time span, in my opinion, from the day that you're charged and given your arrest to the day that you actually get your sentence could vary, but I would say the typical court case, probably 8 months to a year. If it's more serious, like murder, kidnapping, you're probably looking at maybe 2-3 years even for an actual sentence and for trial. All right, guys, so where do I begin? Okay, so I was very young. I was a teenager. I was a high school student just coming into high school. And so picture this. It's probably like the year 2007, 2006 to 2008, I was arrested. Guys, by the way, I just want to say that, I'm not glorifying my past, but the purpose of this video is to help some of the young people out there who may be going through similar struggles. So I'm going to get pretty technical into the story and explain a few things with the justice system, the court system, and maybe if you find yourself in a situation, you'll know what to do. So I'm a teenager and I get arrested more than 3 times. And the last time I was in custody, I was 16 years old. Being in custody means that you're basically locked up. You belong to the state, or in this case, the province, because I'm talking about Canada, right? I'm not going to talk about all my charges, but I'm going to talk about the time that I got into a fight. And it was actually, it wasn't like a 3-on-1. It was basically me fighting 3 other inmates. So, but a little bit of backstory context. So I'm a teenager, I get arrested. One thing that the court systems, they'll do to you to stress you out, I don't know the technical term, but what they do is, let's say you're in custody, right? You're at the jail. So, and you just got arrested, you don't make bond. So typically you're not gonna make bond or make bail, is what I mean, if you have previous charges. So let's say you get arrested today, they let you out, 2 months later you get arrested for something else, and then they're basically looking at you like, okay, well, you just messed up 2 months ago, so now you're not getting out. The cases vary, but that's how it works. So at that time I had been arrested more than a few times already. So the judge was not really happy because I just kept coming back, right? And as a juvenile, man, like when you're a youth offender, yo, they only really lock you up if they think you're a menace to society. Like if you're really, really just like out of control, wilding out, yeah, they'll end up, not letting you go home. If you're an adult, and it's not like a serious crime, most of the time you'll go home on bond with a PTA, which is promised to appear to handle your case or handle your matter, the charges. So I'm in custody, and they got me going to court like it almost seemed like every other day. It was like 3 times a week. So what happens is when I'm at the jail, the facility that I was at was called Slaps Youth Corrections, and this is located in Oakville, Ontario. In the morning, they would wake you up. The COs would come and wake you up. COs being called corrections officers. The COs would come, they wake you up and tell you, oh, you got to go to court. And what's stressful about going to court is you got to go in the paddy wagon, okay, with a bunch of other inmates, and you're all chained up. So you're one hand chained up to the guy in front of you, one hand chained up to the kid behind you, and it's like that in the van too. So you're in the transport van with the holes, okay, and I must have been on like the 401 or one of the Toronto highways, but you'd look out and you'd see the highway, and that was like a point in my life where I was, and I was a kid, mind you. I'm 14 to 16 when this is going on. And I'm thinking, man, this is messed up. Like, what am I doing? I would go to the courthouse, and what they would do is they would bring you to court, and then they would purposely be like, okay, well, we're still waiting on something, so you got to come back like 2-3 days later. You got to come back next week. And, it's just like you spend your whole day at court locked up in those cells with other people, and it's just like very like restricted, like you don't have an open area, it's like it's a pretty stressful situation. So every courthouse will have their cell blocks underneath or in the courthouse, and that's just basically to bring the prisoners there that are seeing the judge for the day, but they're locked up in the courthouse in the cells that are in the basement of the courthouse. So, and usually there's like an elevator, and for mine, it was like I had to take an elevator with the guard in the elevator, with the keys and all that, going up to see the judge. So, and I remember one time walking into the youth block. Now I'm like maybe 15, and so youth block is anybody that's under 18, right? So 17 and under. And I walk in, and I actually see one of my buddies that live in the neighborhood, like just 2 minutes from me. He was a couple years older, so he was 17, I was 15. And he's like, yo, I knew I would see you in here one day, yo. I knew you were that kid. And so, that was kind of like a pivoting moment. It was a moment where I realized like this is not good, but that was the reality of things. So eventually we ended up sharing a cell right before we seen the judge, and we were like chatting it up and like, hey, what's up, blah blah blah, what are you in for? And my buddy was like, oh yeah, next time you see me next week, my knuckles might be bloody because I got beef with some Bloods and some Crips, because so in the Toronto area, there are like Blood and Crip gangs out there, and yeah, they're pretty serious guys too. So, anyways, so what happened was, so I go to another cell. It might have been like a different day or something, and they put me with 3 other inmates. And what happens is there's a camera facing the court cells, but it's like a really small cell for 4 people. Like technically it should only be like 2 people in there, but maybe they just didn't have enough room, so they put 4 of us in there. And one of them I actually got into a fight with a year ago on the outside in the neighborhood, and I ended up winning that fight. So he was so he knew, and so this is like one of those lessons where it's like sometimes you win one day, but the next year later you're in a position where you're gonna lose. So he had, and here's the thing, he had his other homie that was in the cell with us. So right off the bat it was 2 versus 1, right? And there was another inmate that I guess I don't know if they were homies, but I guess they were all homies because they must have clicked up. And I think one of them, I can't remember, but I know one of them was staying at the detention center I was at. But anyway, so what happened was the two of them would stand in front of the cell, so they blocked the camera. It was a really small cell, so you could literally, like, two kids could stand there and block the camera. So me and the other kid, we were going, right? We're just smashing. So we start fighting. It was like, a couple words here, and then boom, boom, boom. And this is where I was so lucky because, I had just started taking up boxing the year before and I was going hard, right? I was training 4 or 5 days every day after school, going to the boxing gym, Huff in Saga. And so that really like saved me. Like that was my savior. Like, because when they try to box me now, most teenagers, they don't know how to box, right? So I'm in there and I'm throwing like straight shots, boom, 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 bang, bang. So I'm fighting the first inmate. After like a few shots here and there, he's like, all right, let's switch up. So basically what ended up happening, I end up scrapping the second guy, scrapping, they can't get me. The third guy, they switch with the cameras blocking. And I'm scrapping the third one, and then all of a sudden, like all three of them, they know what's up. They know they're not going to beat me in a fight. So there's kind of like a mutual respect, right? Because anytime you go and you're in a situation, and they see me like standing up for myself, they're like, okay, at least he's standing up for himself. So, and that was an important lesson that it was something that I learned like in life. Like sometimes you're gonna have nowhere to run. Like when you're in a cell, like and they want to fight, you have to fight. There's nowhere to run. You're gonna fight or get hit, so you're gonna have to fight. And then what's interesting is I had scrapped all three of them, and then I go up to court and I see the judge. And I think my lawyer, he's seen like the bruising on my face, and he's like, "Yo, man, they're probably scrapping downstairs in the court cells. Can you switch them out of the cells?" So we go down, and one of the COs, one of the guards, was like, "Okay, we're gonna let you in the range. Just walk by the cell that you want to stay in." So I'm walking. I pass my old cell with the three inmates in there, and I'm walking, and I see another cell with one person. So I'm like, okay, if I gotta fight one person, I'm just gonna fight one. So I'm like, all right, put me in this one. So, I go into this one, this cell here, it's all good, there's no issues. And then I don't know what happened, like half an hour later, they're like, yo, you gotta go back to your old cell because I think it's something to do with like which facility you came from. I don't know what it was, but they put me back in the cell, and then the three inmates were like, oh, yo, like, they're like, yo, like, what happened? Did you snitch? And I'm like, nah, bro, why would I snitch? If I snitched, why would they put me back in the cell? And then they're like, okay, yeah, word. And then and that was it. And then they never fucked with me after that. We went back into jail that night. And they were, and after that it was all good. I remember one of the kids later, we were end up playing chess, and that was a pretty stressful moment for me actually. So, but I wanted to share that story because, I want to let you know, if you're in that situation, man, I could see people in that situation just completely getting paralyzed, shutting down, and don't do that, man. You need to really like step it up and make sure you hold your ground, because that's the only thing you have to do is just hold your ground and put in your shots, throw your punches, because you don't want to be the guy that has that reputation of not fighting back and standing up for yourself. So for me, that was a good lesson learned. And ultimately, at the end of all my charges, I racked up maybe like 9, 10 charges on 4 different arrests. About a year later or a few months later, about the next year, I got my sentence. So I got off pretty easy. The judge said, okay, I'll give you a conditional sentence. You've done a little bit of time. Yeah, you gotta make sure you go to school, and yeah, just stay out of trouble, and I'll give you credit served. And I also got like, I think like, I don't know if it was like maybe 100 community hours, but I got like a crazy ton of community hours that took me a while. And then I was on parole for like 5 years until I was 21, which in Canada we just call probation, but it's the same thing. So I don't know, so I hope you guys enjoyed that story, man. It was a story that, sometimes I look back on and I'm just like, holy mother, I can't believe like this is the stuff that happened to me. And, I want to let you know, like, that's what happens, when you make mistakes. But the most important lesson, um, I guess, is, you really gotta stand up for yourself because nobody else will. All right, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I might make a couple more videos. As you guys know, this is not like a prison channel, but I do enjoy making videos and telling stories and sharing them. So I hope this story helps you and inspires you to be better in some way, and to let you know how to, conduct yourself if you find yourself in a situation that I found myself in. All right, guys. I'll see you guys on the next one.